What's up YouTube, Dale here from Zephyr War Games, and of course I was going to be bringing you an update for my favourite deck, and that is Dark Magician. It is also involving the branded engine and the brand new card of the Dragon Magic Knight. Now this deck is insanely spicy, does incredibly well, the synergy between both Dark Magician branded is insane, and the addition of the brand new card of Duality is incredible for this deck, being able to help you cheat out some of your most powerful Dark Magician fusions so consistently. So with all of that out of the way, please smash that like button, hit that notification bell and subscribe. At the end of the video as well, I'll also show you an updated combo that involves the old combo that I showed you before and how you can utilize the brand new card to give all of your monsters piercing battle damage. With all of that out of the way, let's dive head first into the profile. So I'm going to break it down like I did previously, where I'll do Dark Magician cards to show that they dominate the profile. So it's not a branded Dark Magician, it's a Dark Magician branded deck. And then I'll take you through the branded cards. So of course you play 2 Mac Daddy Dark Magician. Until we get the Megatins, when we do get the alternate or the original art as the 25th anniversary, that's when I'll upgrade this for those. But for now, stick with OG Gold. Then of course we do have Triple Magician Soul. This card is incredibly important for this deck because not only can it help you get rid of some excess spells that you may or may not have, but it can also help you get a Dark Magician to the board, which can be very, very useful in order to help you fuse, whether you are going through Poly, whether you are going through Secrets of Dark Magic, or even Branded Fusion to get into your materials. I've now cut the card down to 1 of Magician's Rod. Now I know a lot of you are going to freak out on this one, but hear me out first. I said this in my previous profile, that you're probably going to be better off, considering your main normal summon of the deck wants to be Keeper of Dragon Magic, cutting the normal summon of Rod down and increasing the Soul Servant. The reason this is important to be increased is the fact that it allows you to stack your entire deck with any Dark Magician monster or card, and that will then allow you to get to, if you need the normal summon of Rod, you can get to it. There's loads of ways, Magician Souls and Branded Fusion, to get Dark Magician to the graveyard, and you're only playing 1 Aluba as well. You're trying to get the balance. The whole make weight between the 2 of Branded and Dark Magician is Keeper of Dragon Magic. Yes, I did finally find my 3rd copy. The reason this is a bridge between the 2 is because it searches out Branded Fusion, but it can also revive Dark Magician or Albaz for further fusion plays. We've then of course got the 1 Tomasa United Dragon. This is more important now with Duality, because what that will give you the ability for is if you activate Duality on this guy, it will allow you to tag it out and go into the brand new Dragon Knight, or it'll also allow you to get into your Dark Magician and the Dragon Knight as well. Or, if you're being extra spicy, which we are in this profile, it will allow you to get to Borreload Furious Dragon. Now, Borreload Furious Dragon in this version, unlike the branded version, actually has double usage, and I'll show you how you can utilize it during the battle phase in order to guarantee an OTK play. So you also have the fusion effect of it as well, and keep in mind the fusion effect does not have to use itself, it just needs to use at least a spellcaster. So you could, in theory, with Tomasa Dragon on the board and Dark Magician, use this effect to fuse Dark Magician and Keeper into a Dragoon, and then Duality this into your aggressive push to make Dragoon have piercing. What more would you want? I'm still on the 2 Illusion of Chaos and the 2 Preparation of Rites. Yes, of course, both of these will play into draw. This whole deck plays into draw, sadly, but you shouldn't need to worry about it until the side deck, and then that's when you're going to adapt a little bit more. You could arguably put in Saravis in here, because it is also another dragon, and help protect some of your stuff from targeting, but that's where your brand new Duality comes in, because Duality tributes as cost. It allows you to use Lubellion and Albion as dodge fodder, so that anytime they try and imperm or value you, you can Duality and tag them out, still resolving their effects as well. So 2 and 2 is the ratio that I personally like. I know a lot of people play 3 and 2, or 3 and 1, or 3 and 1, either way round. It's entirely up to you. Like I said, 2 and 2 works for me. If anything, you might want to put Saravis in here, and then you could arguably put Preparation to 3, because at the end of the day, it's not a hard once per turn. You can constantly keep activating it for Illusion of Chaoses, but once you've already got 1 Illusion of Chaos, you don't really need another, so you can very easily just send this with Magician Styles and get additional draw power. Then, of course, we do have the 1 Magicalized Fusion. In the previous profile I showed you before, you search this out with Chimera Flesia in the standby phase by sending it off of your Dust Dragon. You do the exact same thing here as well, and it does give you the ability to come back and build a Dragoon if your opponent breaks your board, or allows you to kind of go different routes in order to get access to stuff like the Dark Magicians if you want to, and it can also get you into a Dust Dragon as well, because it is a spellcaster. We've then, of course, got the one Dark Magical Circle. It's probably going to whiff more times than not, but if you do get this, the fact that the branded cards can also bring back Dark Magician in the form of the Sanctifier Dragon, and you've got other cards as well that allow you to bring him back, getting a Banisher for this can be very, very important and very, very disruptive. You don't really want to worry too much about the reveal effect. The reveal effect can be good if you're able to kind of just to see what you've got, but it's going to be very rare you actually get to add anything off it. The other one we've got is the one Seeker of Dark Magic and, of course, the one Eternal Soul. The reason Eternal Soul is still in here is because it's a lot easier to kind of cheese out a Dragoon and get a Magician of the Dragon Knights. So being able to get this and a Dragoon allows you to protect all of your back row, which means you can set stuff like Duality, you can set stuff like Dark Magic and Eternal Soul without having to worry about it being blown out by stuff like Lightning Storms, Heavy Dusters, stuff like that. And then, of course, we do have the engine. This is still the best engine just to gain hand advantage. Now, what I mean by that is the fact that you can discard this off of Keeper and then it allows you to trigger the effect to search you out. The Patchwork is near invaluable because then Patchwork then gives you a +1 by giving you a poly and a chain. So that just gives you more consistency to maintain hand advantage while also being able to make sure that the combo and your general discard off a Dragoon can be kept at a minimum. There is ways to play around this because in the combo at the end that I'll show you, you'll also see a point where technically you don't need to rely on chains. You can use it with just Keeper plus any discard because you'll also be able to recycle your Cartesia in the end phase. It just means you'd have to use the negate of a Dragoon first and then bring Cartesia back with Quem. This is still the best way because it gives you direct access to the poly and that's what makes it more consistent and more powerful, plus being as prominent as possible. So that's it for the Dark Magician lineup of this one. Now moving on to the branded lineup. So for the branded lineup, we do have 2 Albaz, followed by the 1 Quem and the 1 Cartesia, alongside the 1 Aluba and the 1 Lubellion. You want to keep this at a minimum. This is, like I said at the start, it's a Dark Magician branded deck. It is not a branded Dark Magician deck. So these are taking the supporting role of the deck, and all of them have their uses. Obviously, Albaz is needed for branded fusion. Quem and Cartesia all come off of the combo that I'll show you at the end, for the pure fact that Quem is insane, that they can constantly keep looping back Cartesia, but it can also help you loop back an Albaz. It can even help you loop back a Dragoon, which is mental. Lubellion is only in here to give you direct access to Branded Lost, while also being able to trigger the Albion as well for the end phase effect. If that wasn't enough, it is a level 8 light dragon, so it also has an effect with Duality of being able to activate Duality, sack this off, because once this has come back from the board and used its effect to give you the Branded Lost, it really is just fodder on the board. So being able to Duality that into your aggressive push or your defensive push does give you a load of options. So that's it for the monsters for the branded side. Moving on to the spells. So we do play the brand new and incredibly important Duality. Now what I really like about Duality is the fact that you are allowed to tribute a light or dark monster to special summon a light or dark monster from your hand or extra deck. So it is not ashable. The draw effect in the second part of it is ashable, but not the summon effect. The fact it tributes its cost allows you to dodge targeting effects, which is really important with stuff like Baron. If they're like, okay, cool, Baron effect, target to destroy, and you go change Duality, if they've already used the negate of the Baron, for example. Not to mention Imperms and Veilers on your Lubellions and your Albions can also help them dodge. It allows you to special summon a monster from the extra deck or hand of the same type, but opposite attribute. Same type, same level, opposite attribute. So if you tribute off a light, you've got to summon out a dark. You tribute off a dark, you summon out a light. The secondary effect allows you to, during your main phase, banish this card from the graveyard, target a light and dark monster in your graveyard, shuffle them into the deck, draw 1 card. And again, in the combo, you'll see how we use this to loop back our Lubellions and can loop us back our Keepers if we want to, or can also loop us back our Chains. Then, of course, we do play triple branded opening, triple branded fusion, and like the previous profile, only double deployment and double Nadir is pretty much all you really need to play. Nadir is just a fallback if it all goes pear-shaped. And to be honest, in this version, unlike a pure branded version, if you stop branded fusion, that's it. Whereas with this version, you're still able to make plays because you still have access to directly pulling Secrets of Dark Magic. You've got ways of getting to Poly. You've also got ways of getting into your Magical Ice Fusion as well. So it's not the end of the world, but Nadir Servant kind of becomes the replacement for if you're unable to get to Titaniclad or if you need to go to Lubellion or something else rather than Titaniclad. And then, of course, the one branded loss, pretty straightforward and simple on this one. As you can tell, this deck is very gas orientated. There are no hand traps in here. It is very, very tight. Like, you literally need to be playing like 20 odd Dark Magician cards, 20 branded cards, and then 5 engine cards to kind of keep it all going. I'm not saying this is the best Dark Magician deck ever invented, but this is a deck where you're like, you know what? I've just got the brand new Duality. I paid £10 each on those. I've got the brand new Dark Magician Dragon Magic, and branded is the most consistent version of Dark Magician. How can I play it to its max capability? Well, this is one of them. So then moving on to the extra deck, we do play the one brand new Dark Magician, the Knight of Dragon Magic. So it is a Dragon level 8. It does require Dark Magician plus a level 7 or higher Dragon or Warrior monster. So obviously you're only going to be using the dragons. If your monster, so any of your monsters attacks a defense position monster, you do piercing battle damage. Once per turn, when your monster destroys an opponent's monster by battle, you can then inflict damage to your opponent equal to that destroyed monster's original attack. So, if you attack and destroy a monster, you can go, it's got the highest attack, let's use the effect. Or, no, it's not got the highest attack, we'll leave that one. Attack, pierce, destroy it. Oh, yo, that's got like 3,000 attack. Let's do some burn damage on that one. Another effect on this one as well has a very cool effect, that if it is destroyed by card effect, any card effect, as long as it is destroyed, you can special summon both. So it has to summon both, Dark Magician and Gaia the Dragon Champion. So if you don't have Gaia the Dragon Champion, or you don't have Dark Magician, you can't activate the effect. So, that is why we play the one Gaia the Dragon Champion. Now this is very specific, because the way you can trigger to destroy it yourself during the battle phase is with Borreload Furious Dragon. Now you can either hard make this, or you can use this through Duality, but you will also need to get to this through Duality as well, which is kind of complicated. But the idea is you have a quick effect off of Furious Dragon to target a monster you control and one card your opponent controls. Destroy them. You can banish this card and then bring back a Dark Link monster, but that's irrelevant. We're not playing Links in this. But the idea is during the battle phase, you, let's say for example, attack with Borreload Furious Dragon, do piercing damage, use the effect of your Dragon Knight to burn your opponent. You then attack with the Dragon Knight. This then kills another one of your opponent's monsters and does piercing damage. You then use Borreload Furious Dragon's effect to target your Dark Magic and one of your opponent's monsters, destroy both of them. Trigger the effect to this, summon back Dark Magician, and then summon out Gaia the Dragon Champion. That's 2 more attacks. So from 2 cards, you've been able to amass 4 attacks, which is really important because it's 4 attacks plus a burn and a destruction. So just by able to do that, you're going to be able to push your opponent very close to an OTK, if not guaranteed OTK, because you would imagine that the 26 and the 25 is going to be going in direct, and at the very least, both of these are doing piercing, and the burn damage of that should get you OTK. Then, of course, for the dragon versions, or continuing for the spellcasters and dragons, you do play the one Dark Magician, the Dragon Knight. Please, can I get this as a secret rare? And then, of course, we do have the 2 Dragoons, because not only can you now get to Dragoon through branded options, you also have ways to get to Dragoon through Duality options and Magical Ice Fusion. You can get to this as consistent as heck. Another card that I'm going to show you that you can put in that will fill the space of a Dragoon is the Dark Magicians. Now, this is the 16th card of the extra deck, so I'm going to highlight that again. This is the 16th card of the extra deck. You don't have to play this. This is me just showcasing that you can. And the reason that you would play it is because it's another target off of Duality for your Dust Dragon. Because you can tag your Dust Dragon, and you'll see it in the combo as we play. Your Dust Dragon can become a second Dragoon, or it can become the Dark Magicians. In doing so, it gives you additional draw power. You're not going to get the destruction effect, but it does give you that ability to draw and activate a spell or trap the turn you set it if you drew it. So that can give you direct access to Eternal Soul if you stacked it. It can also give you direct access to something like Secrets of Dark Magic if you stacked it. It does give you a lot of different options, but currently in this build, I'm not playing it because I'm going more on the dragons off of the back of Duality and Dragoon off of the back of Duality for the spellcasters. But also keep in mind as well, if you can access the Dark Magician, but you can't access, so Magical Ice Fusion, but you can't access this, you can Duality this into this, which is really good. The issue is, it's not Fusion Summon, so it won't get the Foolish Burial. Keep that in mind. Then, of course, we do have the Chimera Flesia. This is one you could cut for the Dark Magicians if you want to, but I really do like the ability of sending it off a Dust Dragon, because it gives you a guaranteed follow-up. Like, unless your opponent is going to Ash and stop this, which... if they are, okay, I've only used 3 of my 5 cards, I still have more to play with. If they don't stop this, you'll get a Magical Ice Fusion. Your Magical Ice Fusion, unlike Branded Fusion, can't be stopped with an Ash. You're going to banish the Dark Magician and a Dragon that you've already put there last turn, and that's going to give you into another Dragoon. Dragoon go, okay, cool, burn, pop, burn. attack, let's go. And then for the branded cards, we've got the one Mirror Jade, the one Albion, the one Lulu Walleth, the one Lubellion, the one Sanctify Dragon, and the one Titaniclad. Now, obviously, Sanctify is actually really important because Sanctify can allow you, if you do go into Albion and fuse into it, you can tag into it. You can also tag out of your Titaniclad into the Sanctify Dragon, which can be important, which you'll see again in the combo, the different steps and the different times you have the ability to activate Duality, should you want to, in order to kind of push your plays that bit further. Now, unfortunately, this is the only light dragon target you have to tag off the back of Albion and Ash. But what makes this so good is the fact that it doesn't need to be Fusion Stone to bring back the monsters from the graveyard. So very easily, during the end phase, Titaniclad can then use this effect to summon you out the Cartesia. And then you have the ability of Albion to bring back the... summon out the Quem. Then you can use the Albion Sanctify Dragon effect to bring back the Cartesia and an Albaz, or vice versa. And then use Albaz's effect or Cartesia's effect to then contact fuse on a board. Like, you've got loads of ways of doing it. Heck, if you really, really wanted to, and I don't advise it, you could play the Gimmick Puppy Lock, but it is an option. And then the final card we play is the Guardian Chimera. Pretty straightforward and simple on this one. The only way you're going to make it in this is a hard poly or by Secrets of Dark Magic. Both of them technically searchable in the deck, so it is consistent and you don't need to rely on it as heavily. Yes, you could put branded in red in this deck, but I have chosen or opted not to, for the pure fact that I'm not relying on Aluba that heavily. My searches are all going to be coming off of Keeper of Dragon Magic. My normal summon's gone off Keeper Dragon Magic, and then I do have that option that should I open up Keeper Dragon Magic in a branded opening route rather than a route to poly, I can use Keeper Dragon Magic to get me poly, and I can special summon out of a branded opening either a Quem or of course an Aluba, and that will give me another option to branded fusion. So that's it for the profile. I'm now going to zoom out, reset, and show you the combo for the deck as well. Here is the combo. Now, it is a 3-card combo because we're adding Duality to it, but what I'm going to show you is all the different stages that you could activate Duality in order to push your plays that bit further forward. So, we're going to start off with your Keeper of Dragon Magic. You're going to normal summon this, you're going to use this effect to discard, specifically the chains, in order to gain you as much hand advantage as possible. This will then allow you to search out Branded Fusion, and then trigger the chains effect to search you out your Patchwork. You will then activate the Patchwork to maintain hand advantage by searching you out a chain and a poly. Very, very nice. You're then going to choose to activate your Branded Fusion. This is going to allow you to send Albaz and, of course, Dark Magician. Now, this is one of your first intersections of the play. In order to get your Quem plays going, you do ideally want to go to Titaniclad. You can still get into Lubellion, and I'll show you that variant as we go. So this is your ideal target. At this point, you then want to use Keeper's effect to reveal and then revive from the graveyard. If you want to get into your Dragoon, you will reveal the Dark Magician and you'll poly the Dragoon with the Titaniclad, and that gives you a way to go. If, in fact, you want to go for Lubellion, then you can actually bring back Albaz. In doing so, keep in mind that these will be face down. I'm just using them face up so you can visually see them. In doing so, what this will give you the ability for is, again, you need to get Titaniclad off the board. So whether you are going to poly and use these two, just so you can get Titaniclad's end phase effect, or if you want to Duality the Titaniclad and go into the Sanctify Dragon. It's entirely up to you on which route you want to go. The reason you would go Lubellion would be to be more aggressive, because if you go to Lubellion, you can get your Dark Magician, the Dragon Knight, to protect the back row. You can also get into the Borreload Furious Dragon, and you can also get into your brand new Dark Magician, Knight of Dragon Magic. So that's if you go Lubellion route. If you try and Duality your Titaniclad, you can only really go into your Sanctify Dragon. I'm going to show you where you actually utilize Duality during your opponent's turn that little bit more. So we are going to bring back Dark Magician because we are now currently pushing the limits of Nibiru. So we're going to activate Poly, and you want to use Titaniclad to get that in-phase effect, and of course Dark Magician. This is going to give you the almighty Red Eyes Dark Dragoon. So Poly is now spent. At this point here, again, you can move to the end phase. You don't really have a target on Duality because you don't really want to tag this out into your Dust Dragon. You want to be moving to the end phase and trigger the Titaniclad's effect. This will allow you to special the Quem from the deck. You'll then be able to use Quem's effect to Foolish the Blazing Cartesia. Now, in the end phase, make sure you've set Duality. Whew, that could be a big one. Saw that at one of the most recent Nats. In the end phase, again, if you don't have Chain, and you keep in mind you'll also have 2 more cards from your open hand, but if you don't have Chain, I'd advise you to add back the Cartesia. Even in this example, I'm going to show you what happens when you add back the Cartesia. The only difference is, it means you need to use your Dragoon Negate first before your opponent puts a monster from the extra deck on the board, because then you need to be bringing back Cartesia from the Quem. So that's your catch-22. The idea behind this would be your Quem, let's say we've used Dragoon's effect to negate, Dragoon is now on 4k. You then, obviously, opponent brings a monster from the extra deck, or you've negated it, send it to the graveyard, anything like that. Quem's effect will trigger, bringing back your Cartesia. At this point, keep in mind that Chains is in the hand. This is when you can use Cartesia's effect to fuse. Now, you want to leave Quem on the board, which means you want to be fusing with Chains or Keeper. I'm going to be fusing with Keeper in this example, just so you can see that we've maintained that hand discard if you left Cartesia in the graveyard. In doing so, this is going to allow you to get into your Dust Dragon. Dust Dragon's effect will now trigger to send from the extra deck to the graveyard your Chimera Flesia, so you've got a follow-up of the next turn. If your opponent tries to interact with this by targeting it, that's where you can chain your Duality and tag out very nicely. Now, keep in mind, the only targets you have to get into this is a Dark Spellcaster, so it's either the Dark Magicians if you play it, or more commonly will be Dragoon. The reason this is quite helpful is if your opponent Kaijus your Dragoon and thinks, ha, I'm done with it, I'm not got to worry about anything, then you still have the ability to go, you know what, go into Dragoon and I've still got my Edge Imp. So that's one thing you might want to consider if you are thinking about bringing back the Cartesia. If that wasn't enough, so let's say we spent our Duality. If that wasn't enough, and let's say we also, I don't know, negated using this rather than the Quem. In the end phase, you'll be able to replenish your hand by going, okay, cool, I'll add the Cartesia. You then move to your standby phase, and in your standby phase, you also get to trigger the beautiful Chimera Flesia, and that's going to allow you to add a Magicalized Fusion from deck to the hand. And again, this is where it gets a little bit differently. Because you've gone through both your Dragoons, the Magicalized Fusion is not going to be that live for you, because you need to be able to go into a Spellcaster, and the only Spellcaster you have left in the extra deck is, if you play it, the Dark Magician. So again, that's where the example is, if you play this, you're better off tagging into it rather than going to a second Dragoon. If that wasn't enough as well, let's say you want to recycle some stuff, you still have Duality, so you can target any lights and darks in your graveyard, which you have a plenty, and you can spin back your Titaniclad, you can spin back your Dust Dragon, and go again. Keeping in mind that if you do Duality during your turn, Quem can also bring back from the grave as well. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to rewind this, and I'm going to show you what happens if you choose to go for Lubellion instead of the route to Dragoon nice and early. So if we rewind all of this back to having Duality in the hand, Chain in the hand, and Keeper in the hand, we're going to play it from here. So normal summon Keeper, Keeper's effect, discard the Chain, search you out a Branded Fusion. Chain's effect will trigger to search you out a Patchwork. Patchwork's effect will trigger to search you out a Poly, and of course a, not an Albaz, a Chain. So your hand is pretty stacked, I would say. You then get to use the effect of Branded Fusion, and you're going to send your Albaz, and you'll still send the Dragoon. If you really wanted to, you could send like a Tragedy if you played it, but ultimately you don't need to. You could send Lubellion if you want to get to your Branded Lost early, and that will give you the Albion, but by getting into the Albion again, Duality is only going to allow you to get into your Sanctified Dragon, so it's not as fast forward as you'd want it to be. So, after you've used Branded Fusion, let's say we're still going to go Titaniclad. So don't worry about that, because you still want to get Titaniclad to the graveyard for the end phase effect. Now at this point, what you want to be doing is you have the ability to use Keeper Dragon Magic, but instead you're going to bring back Albaz rather than Dark Magician. In doing so, you now want to hard Poly. Now this is where you need to get Titaniclad to the graveyard, because that's how you're going to be able to trigger its effect. You're going to activate your Poly, you're going to put your Albaz back to the graveyard with your Titaniclad, and this is going to allow you to get into your Lubellion. In doing so, Lubellion's effect will now trigger to get rid of the Chain you have in your hand. Keeping in mind that this route is obviously going to be putting you so much further into the capabilities of Nibiru, you do need to be very, very careful. Let's say your opponent tries to chain Imperm or Veiler, you chain your Duality, you tag out your Lubellion, putting it into the graveyard, and you now have a nice little host of options. So your options can be, if you're going second and you want to be aggressive, the Dragon Magic. If you want to be defensive, you go for Borreload Furious. If you want to protect your back row, you go for the Dragon Knight. They are your 3 ideal targets. I would probably go for Borreload Furious in this exact example. Now where you're at with Lubellion is you actually have the ability, should you want to either go into a Mirror Jade, or what I would probably advise more than not, depending if you've got your remaining 2 cards in the hand from your opening turn, is I'd actually advise leaving Albaz to the graveyard and putting back your Dark Magician and the Lubellion. So by putting back Dark Magician and Lubellion, that is your Dragon and your Dark Magician, and that is going to get you into your Dragoon. So you're now protected and you have a fat stat boss monster. Plus, you've got the ability of Furious Dragon as a fodder to get rid of the Dragon Knight. That's not it, because you still have the ability as well. Let me make sure I move Lubellion out of the way. Is you still have the ability to activate Duality. No, you don't, because you've got no lights. Okay, well, the only other dragon you could spin back if you really wanted the draw off of Duality, you would be putting back the Keeper of Dragon Magic, leave Lubellion in the graveyard, and then use Duality to put Lubellion back, and then put back one of your Edge Imp chains. So that's how you get the draw. In this scenario, because I didn't do that, we're going to leave Keeper of Dragon Magic on the board, because it's always nice to have that little bit of extra fodder. We've got 2 unknown cards from our opening hand. Moving to the end phase, you still get the Titaniclad effect, and this is going to give you Quem. You're then going to get Quem's effect, which is going to Foolish Burial the Cartesia. And because Titaniclad went from the extra deck to the graveyard, or went a Fusion Monster was sent to the graveyard this turn, you can again add back the Cartesia. So it guarantees you that, let's say you've burnt your other 2 cards in hand, it guarantees you're still going to have a negate on the Dragoon. Again, the exact same example applies, that if you do something like this and add the Cartesia back, you are going to need to use your Dragoon negate as early as possible in order to make sure that you've got the setup for Quem. Otherwise, Quem's targets to revive will be an Albaz, which isn't the end of the world, but can also be a Chain or a Titaniclad. Albaz is okay because then you could use one of your remaining discards in the hand, or heck, even if you kept the Cartesia and bring back Albaz, you could then Contact Fuse and go into Mirror Jade or anything else you want. So it does open you up a couple of different options. You still have the fodder on the board of your Keeper. The only thing you won't get by bringing back Albaz is you won't be able to get into your Dust Dragon. So, going back to the original example, discard a card, Quem brings it back, Contact Fuse using this and this, go into your Dust Dragon. And don't worry, basically what you've done is you've traded your Keeper of Dragon Magic for a Dust Dragon, because that's where your Borreload Furious is going to go, okay, cool, free fodder, get rid of it and go again. This will then allow you to Foolish from the extra deck. Now you can send another light like Lulu Wallif and then spin it back with your Duality to get a draw during the next turn. Or if you want to guarantee that very cool Magicalized Fusion, you send your Chimera Fleesia. So, moving into the end phase, again, you're going to be able to recycle the Cartesia, which is very, very nice. And then you'll get the ability to search out during the standby phase of the next turn your Magicalized Fusion. So you'll draw for turn, of course. This is your current hand as it sits fit. You've still got the Albaz in the graveyard. So if you want to, you can special summon down Cartesia and then use his effect to fuse, depending on what else you have in the hand. You've also got the ability of Magicalized Fusion. The only issue with Magicalized Fusion is you don't have a Dark Magician in the graveyard, so you're not going to be able to get into a second Dragoon because you spun it back with Lubellion. So these are all little intricate details you're going to need to remember when you're adding these cards here, but the idea is the 3 random cards can lead you to a Dark Magician if you need it. Ultimately, you probably don't, because as soon as you move a monster from the extra deck, you'll then be able to use Quem's effect to revive an Albaz and Contact Fuse and do whatever, basically. And the Borreload Furious Dragon can get this off the board to clear some space off and push and push and push. It's absolutely insane. I love the way that it works. The synergy between the two is incredibly nice. And I really like what Duality offers to this deck. Now, obviously, Duality offers a decent amount to both decks individually. So if you do want to see a pure Dark Magician build, get the video above 50 likes in the first 24 hours, and I will be more than happy to bring that for you. Apologies for such a long video, but I wanted to go in as much depth and detail as possible so that you all understood why we would play Duality, whether you're a Dark Magician, whether you are branded, and also show you a combo that backs up the use of Duality. Not that it's completely needed in the combo, but I still like the ability that this allows you to dodge certain effects as well. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Any questions, comments below as absolutely always. But for now, stay safe, and of course, happy dueling.